let's talk about Timothy. As a matter of fact, why is it always Timothys that get in trouble? Apparently, Timothy is a really bad name to name your children, especially if you want them to be good, obedient little servants. Anywho, I'm just not seeing support for this guy. Even when I Google it, no GoFundMe pages, no groups together, no protests arranged. So let's talk about him for a second, because clearly he needs some media exposure. Somebody had actually sent me a link to his article, and I thought, hey, I would check it out. And I was expecting to see a support group I was going to promote, and there is none, or none that I can find. And this even matters to you. Even if you're completely 100% anti-gun, this case affects you, because this case goes against this guy's constitutional rights. And if one gets eroded, they're all going to get eroded. Even if you're anti-gun, at some point in the future, you're going to say something somebody doesn't like, and they're going to bring you in front of a judge. You're going to be like, dude, my First Amendment. And they're going to be like, ha! Oh, you lost that years ago. That was gone with the Second Amendment, you fool. So let's look at his case. Number 1, shall not be infringed. You think that would be the mic drop? His case would be instantly dropped, because his case goes directly against your constitutional right for him to even have a case. They have to violate the Constitution, which is the very building blocks of this country and what this country stands for. But because of the state of the world we're in today, we're going to pretend like the Constitution doesn't exist. So what are they going after him for? He was making Swift links. There's other names for it, dropping auto sears, etc., etc., etc. Basically, he sold a 3D printed part, this is what it looks like right here, that if you disassembled it, one of the parts were in just the right shape, made just so, if you had a very special AR-15, because no, you could not just randomly drop it in any AR-15. They're all made differently. There's high shelf receivers, low shelf receivers, M16 pockets, M16 bolt carriers, AR-15 bolt carriers, SP-1 bolt carriers, early Colt carriers that were completely cuckolded. You have to have a very specific AR-15 in order for that to even fit in. Should you have this very specific AR-15 and you remove the screw out of the bottom of this coat rack, you separated the pieces in two, you took one of those pieces, dropped it into your very special AR-15, you would in fact have a machine gun. So, they are charging him with that, an unpaid tax of $200 because he had a silencer that he hadn't paid the tax on yet. Completely legal, he just didn't pay the tax on it yet. So, really, ignoring the Second Amendment shall not be infringed. Completely wiping that off the table. They're going to nail him to the wall. Because not only was he making these Swift links, he was selling them over state lines, so that allows the feds to get involved. They'll get him with that for sure. Now the silencer, obviously they'll get him with that, but the charges they're trying to hit him with that are just completely absurd. It should be... 1 second, please. The sponsor of today's video is Got Your 6 app. Now this is actually a really cool app and is especially relevant to this particular video. Because on this particular app, not only do you get all the gun laws that are coming down so you can try to fight them for only $2.99, which is far cheaper than all the rest of the websites, it also has a panic button. So you can form groups, and should you have a red flag law, instead of trying to go and trade punches with the SWAT team, you can press that panic button, it'll turn the GPS on your phone, and hopefully a protest will assemble outside your house to settle it non-violently. Pre-register today at gotyoursixapp.com. So they're going to hit them with the tax on the silencer. The tax should be a late tax fee, which is 25%. That's it. If you don't file your taxes on time or you don't pay your taxes on time, it's 25%. But apparently, since this tax has political motivation behind it, you're looking at a prison sentence and like a $250,000 fine, which is completely absurd. Now, the other things where they're touching on is where the water really gets inky. He said on his website the proceeds are going to go to red flag law, no-knock warrant victims. Basically, as of Trump, due process became obsolete. So there's a law out there that if they impose that, you do not fall under due process. They will prosecute you, and you have to try to prove your innocence. So basically, even before they show up to a person's house, he is guilty. So they come in with the intent of deadly force. Without any reason to have deadly force, they'll come in, they'll typically execute you in the middle of the night. Say, red flag law, he was already guilty, tried, guilty. We had every reason to execute him. Well, for some reason, instead of saying that he was giving the proceeds to red flag law victims, they picked a specific one, Duncan Limp. I don't actually know a whole lot about this case. I'm assuming this is some sort of bad case that makes him look bad, because that's why they would focus it and say that he's supporting him instead of red flag law victims. So that kind of public smear, that's just absurd. I can't believe they're doing that. Anyways, let's move on. They're saying number 3, Boogaloo is a domestic terrorist organization. I don't know how in the hell I got listed as a domestic terrorist, but Boogaloo is a peaceful protest. It's literally a show of force. All it was a bunch of people, and I'm sure it still kind of exists out there somewhere, that would wear Hawaiian shirts and they would show off their firearms. Peaceful protest, just a display of force. I'm sure they could probably dredge up some case somewhere where somebody claimed Boogaloo and did violence, but they are the exception. They are not the rule. The rule is it's a completely peaceful protest. I don't understand how people that participate in the Boogaloo protest got labeled as domestic terrorists when there's actually groups out there that are burning things down, getting people killed, and spreading fear for political motivations are not labeled as domestic terrorists. So what the hell is going on with that? Number 4, the silencer, I already talked about that. So, you have 2 choices. We can support him, which would be an excellent case to attack the NFA with. We probably won't win, but still, it's an excellent way to attack the NFA and show that even people that are caught red-handed, they're dirty, because they're doing something that's constitutionally protected, people will stand by their side, versus hoping the hell that somebody's willing to support you if you fight for your freedom, and or going to war on a battlefield, possibly fighting communists trying to take over the country. So, instead of like, say, Lobby Day 2.0, where they're going to drive around in circles for 3 hours, why don't they make a protest to protest his case? This guy is completely justified. He's constitutionally protected. Shall not infringe. And even if this stuff, the Duncan Lynch and the Boogaloo thing, and there's even this little section where they had this guy, who was clearly anti-gun, purchased 4 of his little wall hangers, and then told the FBI, hey, I purchased 4 of these wall hangers, but I was paid by a terrorist organization cell, and they're trying to link that to him. When your First Amendment protects you against association, unless they can prove that they physically hang out in one spot and they're somehow actually trying to do anti-government shit, which they can't. You can't just be a customer. I can't just go to Al-Qaeda, just can't buy a Bushmaster rifle and now all of a sudden Bushmaster is Al-Qaeda. That's not the way the world's supposed to work, or at least not in this country. So, this guy needs support, a lot of support. He's getting screwed on stuff he's protected from. Now again, if we remove and pretend the Constitution doesn't exist, he still has an unpaid silencer tax, which should be a fine of the silencer tax originally, plus the late fee, which is 25%, I believe. I'll have to double check that. I'm 9% sure it's 25%. And then transporting pieces of plastic. They're not machine guns. You actually have to alter the product. Yes, it's just removing a screw, but that does not change the fact that you actually have to alter the product. If they're going to go after that, they could just as easily go after you for having wire coat hangers in your house, or a drill because you might drill a receiver. There should be no way he could get charged. And he's getting zero support, probably because people just don't care. And it's ridiculous because 90% of the people in my comment section said they would throw their life on the line for freedom. Which would be exponentially harder than just supporting this guy who has a foot in the door to start combating the NFA. So hopefully this video will catch on. A bunch of other creators will make similar videos. A support group will get formed and at least get a protest at his court appearance and everything, just so they know that, hey, people do not agree with what we are doing. Because there's no protest happening at his court date and stuff like that, they're like, well, clearly people don't care when we violate their constitutional rights, so let's just keep doing it. I'm going to roll in a clip of a little video that I think you guys would like. This guy had all of his charges dropped. It was found to be a pistol. This is what our future's looking like.
First step on the clock for me. Under arrest? Yeah. Yeah? Yeah, just turn off. Close my shoulder. Yeah, anybody can come pick up this vehicle? Okay. Okay. May I ask why I'm being arrested? Yeah, talk to them because I was talking to you, and then I'll continue talking to you shortly. You go ahead.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say cannot be used against you in the court of law. You have the right to talk to the attorney, have him or her present with you before and during questioning. Do not afford a hire attorney. One will be appointed to represent you at no cost to you before and during questioning if you wish. You decide at any time to exercise these rights and not answer any of my questions or make any statements. Do you understand each of these rights as I explain them to you?
Yes, sir.
Having these rights in mind, you would stop this.
Sure.
Okay. So, right now, the charge is a second-degree felony for having, under 790-0221, I believe it is, for a rifle being under 16 inches.
Okay, well, that's a pistol, though, so.
Okay, well, you're carrying rifle rounds with it, 5.56, a 5.56 round within the chamber?
Yes, sir.
All your magazines are loaded with rifle rounds?
Yes, sir.
I checked that before that it was an AR-15.
Yes, but it's a pistol. Yes, sir. I understand. I understand that. It's okay.
Okay.
So that's why you're being arrested right now.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to secure all that stuff and make sure everything's on property. Just stand by for it.
Now, just because he had his charges dropped, because it did come to be a pistol, the way the ATF is looking right now, they may have very well have sent that pistol into the ATF and they ruled that that was in fact a short barrel rifle. Because remember what they said. They're not determining a pistol by being a pistol anymore. It's not black or white. There's different qualifications. How much does the firearm weigh? What kind of sights does it have on it? What caliber does it shoot? Is there a rifle version of that particular one? Anyway, apologize, kind of went on a rant here. Just calm down a little bit. If you'd like to help support the channel, I got my Patreon right there. I also have affiliate links in the description down below. Just by clicking on those links and doing the Amazon shopping you're going to do anyway, I get a little kickback for it because you came there off my channel. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe.